When people say there's not enough representation, or people say, well, how can we influence decision-making? You have to be in the board. You have to be in those boardrooms, not shouting, saying rah, 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 but actually influencing senior people around policy and decisions that can have a demonstrable impact on the lives of Black and racialised communities.
I'm Suzette Llewellyn.
I'm Suzanne Packer.
We're two actors and, more importantly, two friends who've been through life's ups and downs together over the last 30 years.
In this series, we invite some incredible people to our imaginary veranda to tell the stories of their lives.
This is Veranda Talk. Patrick Vernon, thank you for joining us here at Red Bull London, and welcome to Veranda Talk.
Great to be on the veranda.
I'm very excited. I hope you are too, Patrick. I can't believe when we were looking at your CV, everything that we did, so much research, and the list is long, your accomplishments. I'm just going to rattle them off. You are an academic, social commentator, a Windrush campaigner, former counsellor in civil service, DJ, author, podcaster, board game inventor, film director, life coach, trainer, mediator. You have an honorary doctorate. I mean, goodness, I'm running out of breath here. You are a fellow of the Royal Historical Society. And of course, you are an OBE. You were honoured with the OBE for services to the reduction of health inequalities for ethnic minorities, and founder of 100 Great Black British Campaign. Oh, Sue, what have I left out?
Well, what I'm really interested in is that you were on the cover of Vogue. So you're looking very dapper. You're looking very dapper today.
I wasn't on the cover. It was actually a Marcus Rashford.
Well, you were in the pages of Vogue.
Oh, yeah, I was in the yes.
And I'm not surprised because you're looking very dapper today. So how did you get involved with that?
I got approached by Vogue. They were doing a special edition around the time of Black Lives Matter, when all the world had to stop still and for once acknowledged Black presence on planet Earth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So obviously there were lots of things happening, corporates doing lots of stuff. So Vogue decided to do a special edition around activism. So I got contacted by Vogue to say that we'd like to feature you in the magazine and we need to take a picture of you and that kind of stuff. And it was during lockdown, if you remember. So this happened all during lockdown. So they came to my house in Hackney because of social distancing. They had to do it in my garden. I thought I was going to have a clothes allowance and say, just choose what you want to wear. No, I had to choose something from my own wardrobe, which was fine because people thought that it must have come from Vogue, but it was actually one of my African-inspired outfits I wore.
It's obvious you do like your clothes. You do look very dashing.
Yeah.
Is that something you can imagine? With all your other accomplishments, do you think you could squeeze in fashion?
I'm not sure about fashion, but I do love wearing clothes. It's funny because if I look at my life, when you're working, I've had various jobs, working charities, local government, civil service, all that kind of stuff. You have to dress in a particular format. But in my teens, I did wear bright stuff. And it was during that era of the late 70s, early 80s. As a black male, you had two choices. You were either part of the reggae crew, you had locks up, all that kind of stuff, or you were a soul boy. And you had to decide which part, So I went on the soul boy route. I wore dungarees, I wore bright clothes, and I've always been eclectic in what I wear. But I think as I get older, I've decided to be even more eclectic and just share, as you do, I'm going to wear what I like. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that's how it should be.
And you're expressing yourself, which I do love. It can sound quite glib sometimes or shallow talking about fashion or what people wear, but actually it's an expression of ourselves, which I think is a wonderful thing. So
I wear glasses. I've been wearing glasses from the age of 19, 20. So I've always worn different types of glasses, different types of lens, because it's part of you, isn't it? It's part of you.
And with all these, you said all these different jobs, and it's so varied, Patrick. Do you find that you dress to the job, or is it just about how you feel?
I think in the early days in my career, I dressed to the job, shirt, tie, all that kind of stuff. And I think now, because I actually chair one of the biggest health organisations in the country, and I wear stuff like this at the board. Well, at the board meetings, I don't wear a tie. I've not worn a tie for over 10 years, maybe even longer.
Can you tell us a bit more about...
So I'm the chair of Birmingham and Solihull Integrated Care Board. So essentially, there are 42, they're called ICS systems around England, and they commission healthcare.
ICS systems?
Integrated care system. So basically, it commissions healthcare. So we commission the hospitals, GP services, primary care, mental health services, stuff in A&E, whole range of services around long-term care. So basically, we have the budget to pay all the NHS providers in my patch, which is Birmingham and Solihull. So our budget is 6 billion, and we meet the needs of the population of about 1.4 million. So I chair that board.
And that appointment, it's not a political appointment.
Obviously, you have to go through an interview process, but it's a Minister of State. The Health Secretary approves all senior roles at that level. So so I've been the chair. I've been on the board for about over 4 years. I've been chair now for over 2 years. So I'm in the Midlands about a couple of days a week, obviously working with the NHS family, which are all our major NHS providers, working with primary care, working with local government, third sector, faith communities, around trying to deliver healthcare for the population of Birmingham and Solihull.
Yes. And have you seen over the years big changes? Have you been able to see changes?
Well, I think we're still kind of recovering from COVID, obviously. So we've underestimated the real impact of COVID on staff morale, workforce, as well as delivery. We remember NHS had to stop doing certain operations. So it's taken us about, 3-4 years just to reach the level doing operations, electives, as we call it, to meet the needs of, cancer patients that need leg operations, whatever it is. It's taken us that long to get back to where we were before COVID. And then on top of that, we've still got to do work around transforming healthcare. But unfortunately, if you look at indicators around health inequalities and life expectancy, we were actually doing quite well as a nation prior to COVID, but now we're going backwards, which means more of us will suffer more long-term conditions. There's issues around life expectancy as well. So we have to work even harder around healthcare delivery and more work around prevention. We're limited in resources in how we can do that.
Is that work specific to health equality, certainly around ethnic communities?
No, it's population. So obviously, Birmingham is a global majority city. So 52% of the population of Birmingham is black and racialised communities. The way I see it as the chair of that organisation and the way that we are working is racial inequality and health inequalities are together. We have to look, you can't divorce the two. They're all part and parcel.
Because that's how you got your OBE working in that specific field.
Yeah,
how did that come about?
At that time, when I got my OBE, I was chief executive of a health charity in London called the Afrofuturism, and we did a lot of work around raise issues particularly around black mental health, the overrepresentation of black people in the mental health system, issues around cancer inequality, issues around diabetes, issues around the role of carers. And so as a charity, we're doing a lot of campaigning, advocacy work, policy work, trying to influence NHS and the government, as well as empowering communities to have their voice, have their say. And that's what my citation was.
What was the actual experience? What was the day like for you?
Actually, so I'm very lucky that both my parents are still alive. They're in their 90s now and they live in Wolverhampton.
And
they're not too keen coming to London that often, but they came down to London for about nearly a week, actually. So we went, I think it was Buckingham Palace. It was then Prince Charles who gave me the OBE, and my parents, they loved it. And actually, I dedicated the OBE, and they've got my medal. I gave it to my parents. It's somewhere on the mantelpiece somewhere in Wolverhampton, because it's in many ways that generation, the Windrush generation. My parents came from Jamaica in the 1950s. They raised me and my 4 sisters. They raised the grandchildren and now the great-grandchildren. So there's about 4 generations of us. So to me, I gave that medal to them just to say thank you for being mum and dad, for being there for us, supporting us, nurturing us. Because I think in terms of look at my siblings, we're all 4 of us actually work in the NHS. One's a lawyer that works at the NHS, one's a nurse, one works as an administrator, and another sister, she's actually an artist, actually. She was involved in the Black Arts movement back in the day. So they raised us, and so it's just my way of giving tribute and acknowledgement to my parents.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that generation's relationship to what an OBE is slightly different from ours. Because I know, for instance, Benjamin Zephaniah, for instance, he refused one. And people, I think it's because probably it's the association with the empire.
I hope they do get rid of the empire, because the empire doesn't exist. We have the Commonwealth. I mean, everyone has their own reason to say yes or no. You can't automatically say, if someone says accepts it, you can't automatically say, well, you've sold out. There are people have particular reasons why they accept it for different factors. I think Benjamin Zephaniah, who I knew, I think one of the reasons why he was always against it anyway, but it was the same year where he was offered it when his brother died in police custody. I think if I was in that situation, I probably said no myself.
Sue, you said something, and I think it's beautiful. You said it should be changed instead of order of or member of the British Empire, order of or member of British excellence.
Yeah, there is a campaign that's been going for a number of years, which I've signed up to try and change that. And I think eventually it will change. Eventually it will change. And I think what's happened over I think back in the day when these honours were given out, it was always based on if you kept your head down, behaved yourself, we'll give you the honour for being a good boy or girl. Now there are people who receive these honours who are still very outspoken, and I've never felt obliged or tied to. It's never stopped my work in many ways. In many ways, I've used it sometimes. It can open doors now and again, not all the time, but sometimes, certain powers or corridors, it opens certain doors that you can actually get across and raise your concerns or issues as well. So I think everyone has their reasons why they say yes or no. Everyone has their reasons how they use it, yes and no as well.
But your mum and dad are very pleased.
I can remember when I actually wore the full Monty, I actually hired a proper morning suit, top hat. I'm not joking, really? I did that. And there's a picture of me somewhere on the internet you can find somewhere. But my parents, they loved it. My family in Jamaica loved it. My mum's church loved, so all that kind of stuff. And obviously my hometown, Wolverhampton as well.
So what's the thing that's really exciting you at the moment? What's your passion at the moment?
Well, I think obviously I'm involved in the NHS as one of the senior leaders, trying to how we can improve healthcare for the population of Birmingham and Solihull. And underneath that is obviously I've got concerns around how it had the impact on Black communities. So if you look at some of our data around health inequalities, around maternity services, inequalities for Black women, it's the campaign 5 More, which is about if you're a Black woman, you're more likely to die in childbirth, having raising a child. I was lucky last weekend, there was a Black Maternity Awards that took place in London, and I was actually on the judging panel. And it was really fantastic to see so many Black women who are campaigning, who are working as nurses, midwives in the NHS, or activists who put pressure on the NHS and the government to take this issue of Black women's health seriously. And that data where Black women are 5 times more likely to die in childbirth has actually gone down in the last couple of years. It's gone down to about 3.5, but that's still not acceptable.
Could you just talk a little bit, or do you know some of the data around what those causes were to bring them down?
I'm not an expert in this area, but I actually gave out an award to Dr. Natalie Darko, who's an assistant professor at Leicester University. So she's done some research work, looking at some of these issues around maternity and well-being. But all the work that's been done, again, it actually goes back to the ongoing issues around the legacy of enslavement, how Black people particularly are treated when you're trying to access healthcare. People don't believe when you're suffering, you're in pain, they don't believe you, or they don't think that we're Superman, Superwoman, so therefore you don't need to have additional support or medication, and they allow you to suffer with more pain, not listening, not engaging. And these have factors which means that the healthcare system ultimately becomes racist and structural racist against the needs of not just Black women, but also Black men as well.
Yeah, so one of the big changes has been that being heard.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the campaigning is having a direct effect because it's obviously people are speaking about it, so they are able to either advocate for themselves or other people are advocating for them.
And clinicians are taking it more seriously.
Yeah.
So when a woman says, I'm in pain, I am in pain, I'm not making it up.
Yeah.
Even if you're not screaming, believe it. We hope you're enjoying our conversation with Patrick Vernon.
Patrick made a contribution to the book we wrote as a response to the murder of George Floyd, Still Breathing, 100 Black Voices on Racism.
The book features 100 essays from musicians, members of parliament, poets, artists, athletes, civil servants, doctors, and lawyers. They seek to educate, to bear witness, and to offer hope for a better future.
You can find Still Breathing 100 Black Voices at all good online retailers.
Sue, I know you're dead keen to ask Patrick about Afrofuturism.
I really am, because have you still got
Just
that program we were talking about?
Oh, my Museum of Grooves. No, I stopped that about a couple of years ago.
Just talk to us a little bit about it, because I thought it was fabulous. Can you tell us a little bit about Museum of Grooves?
Yeah, so I've been involved in doing a lot of stuff around Black history and heritage. Did the campaign 100 Great Black Britons, which then became a book, and that, in many ways, I think that helped raise the profile of having more Black reference in the curriculum and raising that awareness, not just for the Black community, but the population as a whole. And I've done a lot of work. I've worked with lots of museums and archives in London and around the country.
Thank you for that.
And one of the frustrating things was that all these artifacts and objects we don't own. All our history, we don't own it. We can go there, and it's even more frustrating. You go to, and you've probably seen it yourself, you go to a fantastic exhibition, lasts for about 3 months, 6 months. That's it. And you have to wait for something else to come. There's nothing that's regular or permanent. So I was quite frustrated with that. And I thought, and then I was the radio station, her name's Alicia, and she said to me, Patrick, she'd been nagging for ages, just have a radio show, because she knew that I love music and vinyls.
Which radio station is?
It was called Reels Rebel Radio.
Lovely.
And it's no longer running now at the moment. But anyway, so I agreed to do a show, even though I didn't have much time in the week, but I thought I'll do it once a month. So I decided, I've got all my vinyls from back in the day as a teenager. And I thought I'll do a radio show, stroke podcast, where I invite guests. And also I'm into sci-fi from the early days of the original Star Trek to all those films, Star Wars, right up to, everything, Matrix, all that kind of stuff. And also the music as well, George Clinton. I grew up in George Clinton, P-Funk and Bootsy Collins and all that kind of stuff.
Sun Ra?
And there's Sun Ra to a certain extent, but it's definitely more George Clinton and all other artists, Earth, Wind and Fire, all that stuff. So I've always had that interest in that kind of Afrofuturist perspective and the people, Octavia Hill, Octavia Butler's, and all that kind of stuff. The beauty about Afrofuturism is about you have the, because often we are dealing with a legacy of enslavement, which obviously is still an ongoing bitter negative experience. But the beauty about Afrofuturism, you have the permission to think about the future, because no one can control the future. Well, let's see what happens now, what's happening in the world, but that's the story. But you can imagine what kind of future you want to create, and that's why Sun Ra, George Clinton, they were able to use their music to create a platform to say, this, either they were saying we came from another solar system or whatever it is, or we're going to leave the planet Earth.
Yes.
One of my favourite TV programmes, Deep Space Nine.
Oh, wow.
Captain Sisko's my man.
Okay.
Deep Space Nine I think it was probably one of the best Star Trek franchises, to be quite honest, really was brilliant. So you got a black man in charge of the space station in enemy territory. So I used the concept of Deep Space Nine with a bit of Blade Runner, because we're having a conversation.
Brilliant.
And then also I was looking at the future, so what's going to happen to black people in the future? And I said, after World War IV, we might have to leave the planet Earth.
World War IV. Let's hope we don't get to World War III.
No, he's going into the future.
So basically, I created the concept of Museum of Grooves, that all the artifacts and objects from all the museums around the world that belong to us, I've now got them. I'm the curator of my music collection, and then I'm interviewing guests from the 21st century, talking about what's it like living in Britain. So I did about 40 episodes.
Wonderful.
Over about 4.5 year period. And it was great that the BB crew came on, and that was really brilliant.
Yeah. I missed that gig.
Yeah. So I've had all kinds of guests on there. I've had Diane Abbott. I've had loads of activists and campaigners, Paul Gilroy, a whole range of people reflecting the diversity and intersectionality of black life in Britain. Because I've known some of these people, I've worked with them over the years. So it was really great to say, I'm doing this show, can you come on? And most people said if they were available, they would do it, basically. So so I did that show, and it was almost like a bit of activism, giving a platform for individuals and people to say, this is what we're doing as well. And what I like a bit about my show, it was that people had to donate something to the museum. Can you remember what you did?
I'd forgotten that, actually.
Well,
I can't
donate.
Oh gosh, I can't remember.
I'm going to
have to listen back because it was a few years ago. It was definitely pre-pandemic.
Yeah. So people had to donate something for the museum for prosperity's sake. So that was important as well. And also, even though we don't have a black museum in Britain at all, we've got black culture archives, but it's more of an archive and a library than the museum.
There's the Slavery Museum in Liverpool.
Yeah, but we don't own that. It's part of the I'm trying to say we don't own. We haven't got our own museum. So I was imagining that we have our own museum, but in the future,
Patrick, you do put the act in activism. You don't sit around. Where does that drive come from?
I'm not quite sure because my parents aren't activists. They were just hardworking people to raise in a family in a hostile environment when I first came over here.
And all praise to that?
I think I was doing a little bit of activism prior to. I think I became when I was doing my A-levels at the local college in Wolverhampton. I became a student governor. So I was in the governing body of my local FE college. I wasn't really an activist. It was just like a role. I don't know how I got the role, but I got the role. I used to go to all these meetings and I didn't really say much at all. Until one day I did say something because our student union, if we had to spend any money, you had to have one of the lecturers had to kind of sign the checks. So this lecturer who was teaching accounts and finance basically siphoned the money out of the student union funds, went to the casino in Birmingham and blew the money.
Whoa!
And then he found out he got arrested and convicted. So that's the only thing I said. This is outrageous that you have the responsibility to look after our money. And that's the only thing I remember saying. That's the only time I said anything, I think.
And that was the beginning.
That was the beginning.
Yes. Wow,
Okay.
that's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
And he was a teacher of accounting.
Accounts and finance.
And finance.
There was lots of activism, as there is now, actually. In the 80s, I was a student in Manchester. There was a lot of things happening during that time. You remember, another act of defiance was me and my two of my sisters and myself. We had a Barclays bank account, and we decided, when we found out what was happening in South Africa, Nelson Mandela, we went to our local branch of Barclays and we closed our bank account. And I remember, in those days, they had bank managers. Remember, you used to go into a bank, there used to be
that's right.
I said, are you sure
Now
you
they
want...
don't even have banks.
It's online these days, so everything's online. Yeah. And I remember the bank manager said, are you sure you want to close your account? I said, yeah, we are. Yeah, we have, because Barclays, you invest money in South Africa. We want to... So anyway, that was
a big thing because back in the day, they had to report onto why. I mean, every account that was closed had to be accounted for. Why was somebody closing it? So that was a big thing. So they didn't want you to close
So I think
accounts.
that's my early days of activism, obviously. But if you look at my career, it's a twin track. I'm an activist, but I've always worked in mainstream roles. I've had various jobs. Somehow, I don't know how, it's very unusual to maintain activism whilst you're working in different roles. I don't know how I've done it, but I've been able to. It's in ebbs and flows anyway, to be honest.
But you've done it in lots of ways. You directed and produced a film.
The film was based on someone I really got to know really well, was the late Eddie Martin Noble. He was born in Jamaica on Valentine's Day in 1916. He died in a Hackney hospice at the age of 90, but prior to his death, I got to know him really well. He wrote one of the very first accounts of someone from a Caribbean background post-war. He wrote about his memoirs called Jamaica Airman, about serving the Second World War during the RAF, which was published by New Beacon Books back in the 80s. I got to know him purely when I found out he lived in Hackney, and he actually lived about 2-3 miles away from where I lived. So I remember approaching them, knocking on the door one day. So I read your book. I'm going to say thank you. And he's a bit weary of me because obviously, and if someone knocked on your door and said, I read your book, you probably think, I'm being stalked.
Exactly.
Or something like that. But we got to know each other, broke the ice, and then we became friends. And actually, it was like a kind of a grandfather figure to me. And we really got on well. And I had the opportunity to film and record his life while he was still alive. And then when he passed away, the family asked me to do the eulogy at the funeral. And then after I realised, what can I do to celebrate this guy who had been... Remember, he was born in kind of colonial Jamaica, died during the time post after the death of Stephen Lawrence. So his life is a big timeline in terms of what happened locally in Britain, what internationally. So I made a film. Luckily, I'd recorded and interviewed him a number of occasions, and I just used the film archives of his interviews, and then I was able to get film footage from the Imperial War Museum and other archives, and just wrote a script telling his story, using his voice about his life, called A Charmed Life. And 2008 I made the film. It was around about the 60th anniversary of Windrush, and nothing much was happening around that time. There was, apart from a big boat trip going down the Thames, there was not much happening. There was nothing on TV, nothing at all. And then the Guardian newspaper approached me and they asked me to write an article about the film, and then they asked me an article about Windrush. So I wrote an article around about 2009, 2010 to say, why can't we have a public holiday and call it Windrush Day? I mean, I thought, why can't we have a national day to celebrate the Windrush generation as well? So making that film kind of created the foundation. And then I got approached by people saying, why can't we campaign against this? And we started a campaign for a National Windrush Day, which we did for at least 8-9 years. And then it's only when the Windrush scandal broke and when Theresa May apologised, that's when it was formally adopted. And that's why now there's more events around the country around Windrush Day.
And we do have a Windrush Day.
Yeah, and the National Day, yeah.
And what's your feeling around the statue?
I mean, I know Baron's Benjamin, and I think we need more than one statue. Obviously, it's great where it is at Waterloo Station. It's quite a prominent spot. I'm actually involved in a campaign to raise money around the Windrush ship itself. So the Windrush ship, which obviously made that historic journey, left Jamaica 25th of May 1948, for £28, 10 shillings, brought over here 1,000 passengers. The ship itself is actually at the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea. It's off the coast of Algeria. It's been there since 1954. And I'm working with a number of people. We want to raise money to recover the anchor. So if you look at all those iconic images of Windrush, you'll see the anchor of the ship. So we want to raise the money to recover the anchor from the sea, bring it back to the UK, and also to be another monument to celebrate and acknowledge that history as well.
Yeah, because there were quite a few other passengers on board as well, weren't there?
There were over 1,000 passengers. Majority of them were from different parts of the Caribbean islands, different parts of South America. There were Polish people on the ship.
That's right.
So actually it was a multiracial ship in many ways. It's not just the ship itself, it's that history of migration journey. The Windrush ship could easily have left the west coast of Africa. So by freak nature of history, it happened to be, it left the Caribbean, but it could have been West Africa. So I think it's recognising that history and that contribution.
It's a fascinating story. Patrick, can you tell us something about Black on Board, this organisation you're involved with?
Yeah, it's a training programme. It's a leadership programme to help Black and racialised communities to get on board. So it's been going for about just under 20 years. And the organisation is called Olmec, and they started that. First, it was helping people to get on the boards of housing associations.
Right.
And it's now expanded to help people to be on boards of schools, school governors, being on boards of universities, being on boards of NHS organisations, charities, etc. So I've been one of their trainers and facilitators for the last several years. And essentially what we try and do is prepare people to understand like basic rules around governance, around the legal duties and responsibility of being a trustee or sitting on the board, understanding of how to prepare yourself to be on boards, and then we support people when they make their applications. And one of the reasons why the course was constructed, and it's still relevant even today after all these years, is there are not enough Black people, particularly on boards of these institutions. Can remember, these institutions play a key role in determining policy, strategy, and money. So, for example, as I mentioned, I've sat on loads of boards over the years, different charity boards and lots of NHS boards. So currently I'm on the board of one of the biggest healthcare bodies in the country. This is a bit rare. When people say there's not enough representation, or people say, well, how can we influence decision-making? Being on the board, you have to be on the board. You have to be in those boardrooms to influence stuff. Yes, the activism on the street and that activism is important, and I'm still involved in elements of that. But also, there's activism in the boardroom. And my role now, in my latter years of my life and career, is being an activist in the boardroom. not shouting, saying rah, 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 but actually influencing senior people around policy and decisions that can have a demonstrable impact on the lives of Black and racialised communities.
So basically you lead workshops. Do you go around the country doing
No, they run various programmes which housing associations, people who work in local government and NHS, they apply and get on. I'm just one of the trainers. And so it's not my programme, but because of my experience of being on boards, they've asked me to be one of the facilitators, and I'm involved in doing some of the workshop sessions and giving advice as well, helping people to prepare themselves to be on boards.
So Black on Board.
If you can Google, you see details. It's run by an organisation, by Olmec, and it's been going for a number of years now. And we've actually got a very, very good success rate. I would say out of every 10 people that sit on our being involved in our programme, at least 7 of them will have a board position. And people choose to be on board for different reasons. Sometimes if you're working in middle management and you're applying to get up to the next level and you can't get through, by being on the board of an organisation, you can then demonstrate in an interview situation that you've got strategic skills.
There's a similar thing for us, in our industry, to get our stories out as people of the global majority. For the people who make the decisions about the money, like the commissioners, we haven't got enough people in those roles. And I know, obviously, it's not the same as being on a board, but it's having
it's still the same principle, like the Arts Council, BFI, all these kind of major art, and art culture institutions like South Bank, British Museum, the arts culture sector. It's the same principle. I mean, I've sat on those boards too. So I think it's important that representation is important. Otherwise, you'll get the same things that we've always got. So if you've got time and a bit of capacity, get involved on the board.
Brilliant. Thank you, Patrick. Yes, we're going to say that. Get involved. Get on board.
Yeah, get on board. Yes.
So, Patrick, I think you need to relax.
Definitely.
You are here on our
veranda. Yes.
Our veranda.
We want you to relax. Give us a sense of what your veranda looks like.
Well, I was in Jamaica last autumn. Most of my family lives in the Montego Bay area, so we stayed in that area. And I went to visit a friend who's got a house not far from a place called Duncan Bay, which is not far from the beach. And we walked along the beach. It was lovely. So I've had a beach property near there. Obviously, definitely some palm trees.
So your veranda is definitely in Jamaica.
I love Africa as well. I love Mumbai. I love.
So just a beach. Your veranda is somewhere.
The beach.
You've got a view of the sea. You're on the beach.
The view of the sea. I can see the sand.
Lovely. Palm trees you mentioned?
Palm trees, definitely. Lovely. Nice breeze.
Of course.
And then obviously on the veranda itself, because I love my music, so I would definitely want to make sure I've got my vinyl collection there. Lovely. Definitely a nice record player on the veranda so I could play my records.
Lovely.
I need to have a decent chair, not so much a rocking chair, but a nice arm rest chair, or maybe nice chaise longue, whatever.
Oh, a chaise longue. I can see you reclining on a chaise longue.
Something like that. And then
that means you have to have a remote control for your vinyls because you don't want to be getting up and down.
Well, I think it's part of it.
No, it's part.
It's part of the enjoyment getting up for them.
You can look up and down because has to be a drinks cabinet.
Oh, lovely. And what are you drinking?
So in the drinks cabinet, there has to be obviously a whole variety of selections of rums.
Nice.
Reflecting the rums of the Caribbean, South America, and actually Japan make rum as well. They've made some good rum, Japanese too.
Lovely.
So I have a good selection of rum, probably like a bar area or something like that's there. And then I do love books and stuff like that, but I probably won't be reading. I'll just be lying down, drinking, listening to music.
Listening to the music and the sounds of the sea and enjoying the breeze.
And enjoying the breeze,
Are you inviting anyone to join you?
I'm a bit of a loner at times, so I think I'll probably enjoy that. I might invite guests maybe, but I think for the time it'd be more me. It's definitely more me, definitely.
Yeah.
Patrick, it's been an absolute delight to speak with you today.
No, it's been great to be on your... was I on your veranda now? Or was it...
Well, actually, now we're on yours. Now we're on yours. Now we're on yours.
I think it's looking very appealing.
Okay, yes.
And we're loving your veranda and we're hoping to get an invite.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming along.
No, it's been a pleasure. It really has been. And look forward to more veranda talks.
We hope you enjoyed our conversation with Patrick Vernon.
If you did, why not click, share, and send it to someone you think would enjoy it too? Or they're able to find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
I'm Suzette Llewellyn.
And I'm Suzanne Packer.
Veranda Talk is a Bengo Media production.